welcome to Thai PBS World Tonight. You are with Thai Techakit Thiranan and Tulip Naksompopla.
Good evening as well, and kicking off the program with the latest in terms of liberalization of cannabis. As you know, that it has become quite a craze now that the plant has become decriminalized. But unfortunately, there's some sad news in which 4 people have been admitted to hospital for treatment after cannabis overdose, and one actually later died at a hospital. And this comes just less than a week of this liberalization on June 9, according to Bangkok Governor Chadchart. So the governor received a report today from the BMA's Medical Services Department that a 17-year-old and a 25-year-old have been admitted to city-run hospitals for treatment of heart palpitations after consuming cannabis. A 16-year-old was admitted to intensive care, allegedly following a cannabis overdose. Additionally, a 51-year-old man suffered chest pains after using cannabis and later died of heart failure. So the cases have prompted the BMA to consider measures to protect students at its more than 430 schools, including the idea of declaring schools and eateries in front of the schools to be cannabis-free zones, with signs erected in front of the schools, for example. Since recreational use of cannabis and hemp is no longer illegal in Thailand, it is discouraged, but it is not prohibited. So the governor admitted that the BMA cannot do anything to protect adults, but it can at least keep a close watch on and also prevent students at all schools under its supervision from getting involved in the use of cannabis. So basically, recreational use of cannabis and hemp with a THC content is, as mentioned, not illegal. The THC content has to be actually lower than 0.2% by weight, by the way. And but when you smoke, even though smoking in itself is not illegal, if you do it in public, it can cause a nuisance to other people, in which case they may even face a fine of up to 25,000 baht and or up to 3 months in prison if convicted. Trade in the 2 plants and their extracts needs permission from the authorities, and now, as of this morning, more than 785,000 people have registered for cannabis cultivation on the government's Blue Ganja app and website, with the majority already having been granted certificates. Actually, Kuntulip, after we posted this news also on our website and social media, a lot of our followers have been commenting with actually quite disbelief how this can actually happen, because you rarely heard of, okay, you have heard of overdose, for example, of other drugs, but rarely of cannabis.
That's true. We rarely heard about a cannabis overdose, but it's just to show you that it's legal doesn't mean it's totally safe. And anything too much is never good.
Right.
Let alone,
exactly.
you know, just anything too much is never good. So this is cannabis. It used to be illegal, and it's even though it provides some benefit, but it changed something in your body.
Exactly. Well, of course, any excessive amount is never good for your bodies or your health anyway. So be careful. And some people may actually try to ask, like restaurants or those cafes that serve cannabis within as ingredient as well, like what kind of percentage is actually good to check beforehand.
Now let's move on to another thing. Yesterday, I had a chance to sit in at the press conference by the U.S. Secretary of the Defense, Mr. Lloyd Austin. He is in Bangkok briefly 2-3 days, and he met with Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha yesterday. And we had a chance to ask about why he's in Thailand and what he thinks Thailand can do for him, because we know that there is this Indo-Pacific policy, and it has been initiated since the Donald Trump era, but there hasn't been much action in this region until Biden come in office. And finally, Austin Lloyd has been in Asia 4 times now since he is in office as a secretary. 4 times is a lot. in short period of time, especially during COVID. So during his press conference yesterday in Bangkok, Austin said that Thailand is an ally of the United States. So there's a strong relationship of which they have to remain mindful of. This is the fourth time that he has been in Asia since he took the job, and it is his first time that he has made an official visit to Thailand. And America appears keen to tell its allies in the East that it is not going anywhere. Austin was in Singapore over the weekend for the Shangri-La Dialogue, where he attended the conference as U.S. cabinet member for the first time. His keynote speech created waves when he said that the U.S. sees growing coercion from Beijing and is witnessing a steady increase in provocative and destabilizing military activity near Taiwan. Reiterating his agenda, Austin also repeated the statement in Bangkok that the trip is an important opportunity to raise the U.S. concerns over the potential of instability in the Taiwan Strait. Now let's hear a little bit from his press conference yesterday.
America never shies away from honest competition, but we don't seek conflict, nor do we seek a region that's split into hostile blocs. It was an important opportunity to raise our concerns about the potential for instability in the Taiwan Strait.
So Thai PBS asked whether his trip to this region will help strategically with the current U.S. Indo-Pacific policy to counter China's influence, since we still can see China's growing presence in the South China Sea and the U.S. has been trying to be more active in this region. Simply put, I asked him what can Thailand do for the U.S. government. And he said, let me remind you, that's what he said actually. And there is a strong and long relationship between two militaries. So he thinks it is important that both countries work together to make sure that the U.S. is helping Thailand to access the capability that Thailand believes the country needs to protect the interest. But he said there are things that Thailand and U.S. can do together to create additional regional stability going forward as well. Austin also reiterated that a free and open Indo-Pacific is not something the U.S. is imposing on others, but it is the vision that it is in everyone's best interest and is a common vision which the U.S. and its partners and allies believed in together. He said, and that vision based on a rules-based international order. This resonated with his speech in Singapore, where he said that the Indo-Pacific countries should not face political intimidation, economic coercion, or harassment by maritime militias. So the U.S. will maintain its active presence across the Indo-Pacific. At a meeting with Thai Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha, they also discussed expansion of bilateral training and exercises and cooperation in emerging technical areas, including cyber and space. Interesting that they mentioned space.
Interesting indeed. Well, yes.
Space security, I don't know. Probably some kind of training about going into space. I don't know.
Could be.
Defense in space.
It is also something that this administration of Prime Minister Prayut also aspire to, even though we still haven't really seen anything materialize, no such plan yet. But yeah, it's quite interesting. And of course, this is quite tricky also because this we have to, try to balance it out, the regional powers, right? And also our relations with China as well. Well, now moving on to domestic politics, so from international ones to domestic. Bangkok Governor Chadchart has expressed concern actually over the resurgence of violent protests that we actually saw over the past weekend, and we have already reported on, and especially at the Dindang intersection in Bangkok on Saturday as well. So he would like for the administration to actually work out how to cope when violence breaks out and how to, for example, prepare measures to treat the injuries. So the protests at Dindang intersection, which have normally been regarded as a matter for the police, were raised at the meeting for the city administrators. While reiterating his opposition to all forms of violence, either by protesters or even the police, the governor said his administration would try to find a venue where the protesters could demonstrate peacefully as well. So he maintained that the BMA carries the responsibility for taking care of people living close to Dindang intersection and pedestrians who have to walk through the area. So the meeting also agreed to assign a deputy governor to develop plans to provide first aid services to people who sustain injuries during the protest. So as we have reported, small groups of hardcore protesters, mostly they are also riding motorcycles, have been gathering usually in the evening and into the night as well at Dindang intersection and clashing with police deployed there, as they are mostly crowd control police, to prevent them from getting into an army barracks on the Wipawadi Rangsit highway, which houses the residences of Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha. So as we can see, the protests actually back, not the same level, of course. It's still quite small compared to, just the beginning of the pandemic 2 years ago, for example. But it is something that we have to be mindful about as well, because there was a break of several months, and now this happened. But it also means that maybe some people are really still not satisfied and can't really wait for the end of the term of General Prayut. But well,
it's a democratic way to show your dissatisfaction, I guess. Just come out and protest. Just don't create trouble.
Right.
It might be sometimes a little difficult when the protesters are young and can be angry and violent somehow, but like the governor trying to do, this actually reminds me of what Governor Sukhumban Paripat used to say. He says something like the Bangkok governor is actually like a housewife of the city. They have to provide facility, they have to take care of the people, clean up, and something like that. So this is what the current Bangkok governor is trying to do. So talking about the Bangkok governor, we are still in the story involving Bangkok, but now we'll go to the deputy Bangkok governor. Funny thing is, before Chadchart, the governor don't talk much about their deputies.
Right.
And they have deputies, but usually the governor is the one that actually out and about and speaking about stuff. But it seems like the deputies in this administration is pretty active.
Right, indeed.
And the one we are talking about right now is Chakapan Piungam. He is a deputy Bangkok governor that he is trying to take care of some corruption that's happening in Bangkok. He has warned municipal police to refrain from demanding or accepting bribes or other ill-gotten benefits during his first meeting with municipal police chiefs and the head of the city law enforcement department. He said that from now on, allegations of bribery made against officials of the city law enforcement department or municipal police will not be handled solely by the district office concerned. They will be sent to a committee comprising the head of the city law enforcement department and the inspector general of the city administration for investigation. This meeting was held yesterday. The deputy governor disclosed that he has already received a number of complaints about the extortion of bribes by municipal police on his first day in office, and he feels uncomfortable about the problem and would like all officers to perform their duties straightforwardly and transparently. Bribery, he said, is a weakness in the municipal police as a whole. Although the number of officials involved in this malpractice represents a minority, nonetheless, such misconduct has created a negative image of the entire municipal police force. He reminded officers that the uniforms they wear are distinctive when they are among a crowd of people and people quickly identifying who they are and what they are doing. The deputy governor said that he is optimistic that most of the bribery would be resolved if the superiors of the officers on the ground strictly abide by the law. He said he does not expect the municipal police to do their job as if this were the beginning of a new era, but, quote unquote, to continue to do their job in a straightforward and transparent manner.
Well, good indeed, because of course this has been something that has been discussed, talked about. We don't know for sure to the extent of, the whole bribery thing is. We only suspect because, of course, there's not much of concrete study on it. But of course, really a way to go to try to solve this long-standing problem, especially during the first month of taking office.
I think if you live in Bangkok, even though I was going to say as well that there is no statistic, nobody keep the data on the bribery, especially in Bangkok. But if you have been living in Bangkok for a while, a year or 2 or 3 or whatever, you have to come across something resemblance of bribery or something similar to that.
Right, exactly. And ending the program now with the economy. So yesterday we talked about how the diesel price has been increased yet again to about 35 baht per litre. And we have some more statistics to say that Thailand's inflation this year may be rising to the highest in 24 years to 5.9%, which is an upward projection up from 4.9% during the third quarter, before it is projected to fall later on in line with increasing domestic output as well as global economic slowdown. And this is according to the Siam Commercial Bank. So the bank's Economic Intelligence Center, EIC Chief Economist Sompravin Manprasad said that the EIC has revised Thailand's economic growth forecast from 2.7% to 2.9% thanks to the tourism economic engine, which is expected to see foreign arrivals increase from 5.7 million to 7.4 million by year-end. As a result of the further relaxation of travel restrictions and improved performance of the service sector, export growth, however, may fall from 6.1% to 5.8%. So he added that the EIC expects the Thai Monetary Policy Committee to increase the benchmark policy rate from 0.5%, which is currently, to 0.75% to hopefully to slow inflation and reduce risk to price stability. And as for the currency of the baht, Dr. Sompravin said it will continue to weaken until the third quarter to between 34.5 and 35.5 baht to the US dollar. And after that, it may start to strengthen and reduce probably by 1 baht per US dollar, while the current account balance will return to a surplus. Thailand's economy will then continue to recover steadily, and of course, thanks to expansion of tourism, or recovery rather, in place of the export sector, he said. But he also warned that the pace of recovery may slow again in the future due to several factors, such as the ongoing war in Ukraine as well, which is driving oil prices up, and also part of how the stock market and even cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, for example, tumbled down so much as well. So something to keep in mind, because we are living in quite a globalized world. Everything, is actually having ripple effects across the globe.
Yeah, true. I mean, when the Ukraine conflicts began, I don't think a lot of people would realize that it will send some kind of effect. Even some government officials didn't think that it will actually affect anything. Right. But right now you can see everything just, you see the gas price. That's the part of the impact you got from the conflicts. And that's last news of this edition of Thai PBS World Tonight. You can read more news. We have a lot more interesting stories, exclusive interviews. We have explainer, we have analysis and all that on the website www.thaipbsworld.com. We also have YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Right. So as for our program, you can catch us like this every weekday at 7 p.m. right here on YouTube and Facebook Live. So see you again tomorrow. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ